Okay, so good morning. Welcome to Connect with Canvas in 10 quick steps, or getting started, I think we call this. So we're just going to go through a punch list of the basic high level overview of what you need to know to get started if you've never either used Canvas before, or maybe you just want to start using it a little bit more than sending announcements to students, say using the gradebook and a couple of little tips and tricks from that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just pull up a what we call a sandbox Canvas course. So this is just kind of a dummy course that we use for testing, but still has all the same functionality. When you go into your Canvas course, it might be blank, or you might be copying content over. We're going to show you those two methods a part of this. But before we even actually get into the course, if you're using Canvas either for the first time, or maybe you just want to kind of revisit and improve what you're using, what we recommend doing, if we go and click on the account button, and this is done in the top left-hand side when you're in Canvas, we can pull up your profile. And on the profile, it lets you change a couple of things, not really too much, because we will pull over your username from Banner, your preferred name if you set a preferred name within Banner, as well as your photo ID. The photo ID, for those who don't know already, is syncing with the security card system. And so you can no longer actually change your photo within Canvas. You have to get an updated headshot or an updated photo over at public safety. But you can, say, add your professional biography if you just want to link to something like I did with, say, LinkedIn. You can do that on this page. So after you've gone ahead and changed any updates to your profile that you'd like to make, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the notifications. And what's nice about Canvas is Canvas allows you to set very granular notification preferences if you're not already familiar. So there's two kind of frames of mind that we're going to look at when we're looking at notifications. Your notification frequency, which is designated up here with these little icons. So we have notify me right away as a checkbox. This little clock is send a daily summary, sends it in the late afternoon. The calendar icon is a weekly summary on Fridays, as well as don't send me anything, so opting out of a particular notification. And so you'll see these icons correspond down here in the columns. Each one of these columns correlates with a different type of communication method. So you can see I have email address as my first one. If I had set a secondary email address, we would see that as a column. I did not do that. However, I have opted in for SMS notifications, so we can see that number there, as well as push notifications for any of the apps that I have downloaded. So what push notifications mean, if you say have the Canvas Teacher app on your iPhone or iPad, or the similar app for Android, you can set what you get a notification on for within that app. But so jumping back to these little icons where we have the check, clock, calendar, and X, when I go down, I can see all of these specific things, such as if there's a change in a new discussion that's been created in a course, or say a student responds to a discussion post, I can choose whether or not to receive an instant summary to that, a daily summary, a weekly, or no notification emails at all. And so for this, I'll just go ahead and check off daily. And same thing, as you're going down, you can see the different categories. Say if a student signs up for the appointment function within Canvas Calendar, you can get an automatic notification, daily, weekly, so on and so forth. And I can choose whether or not to turn these notifications on for my iPad, say. Any questions on notifications?
Yes. You said that you had the discussions on daily, but don't you have them on the one over? Isn't the check mark daily? Or is that instantaneous? Okay.
Check mark is right away, instantaneous.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, but you don't see that when you're lower down, so.
You don't see that when you lower down, no. Your little key is up here at the top.
I know. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Sorry, one more quick question, John.
Sure, Elsa.
I think, so in my Canvas, I currently have the column for email address. And you might have just said this, but how did you get your column for cell phone and push notifications?
So push notifications will show up once you have the mobile application downloaded and logged in.
Okay.
For adding a secondary email, or in this case, cell phone number, what I'll do is click on the settings button on the left-hand side navigation pane. And again, how we got to all of this is we clicked on account, and then we chose on the notifications profile or settings.
Right.
And on this right-hand side, and I actually went backwards. Normally we show this part all first. You can add a secondary email address if you wanted to for notifications, as well as if you wanted to send an SMS.
Great, thank you.
I will tell you, it looks like over the next couple of years, personally, I think Canvas is going to be phasing out the SMS notifications since for the mobile app notifications, because you're seeing they're not sending as many as they used to. Within your settings note page, you can also click on the little pencil icon, edit settings, and change a couple of more granular settings here as well. If you'd like to, you can set pronouns. Your pronouns will show up wherever your name shows up. So if you did set your pronouns either on the student roster where your name shows up, or as well as any download submissions they would show, students can set this as well. You can change the Canvas language to a preferred language if you want to. Just realize that this is not going to actually translate any content that either a student or a faculty member puts up. It's just going to change these little labels throughout Canvas. And then finally, your time zone. You do want to make sure that you have your time zone updated. That way it does reflect whatever you're looking at. Any questions on that?
So John, if you change, you're changing this for all of Canvas, right?
Correct.
Not just for one class.
So these settings are for your Canvas account.
Okay.
That's why we're changing all of this at the account level instead of the courses level, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about course level now. So like I said, I'm just going to go into a dummy course. This course right now has kind of dummy content, but it doesn't matter. It could also be an empty course. Say you have already, and I know this is going to be a popular item for folks who maybe dived into Canvas a lot more this past spring, maybe than previous semesters. And instead of starting from the ground up, you would like to be able to at least start from what you currently had left off and then be able to make tweaks and changes from there. So once we enter our Canvas course, what we can do is actually go into the settings. And these are the course level settings. And we know this because I'm in the course tab right now. And so when I go into the course settings, on either the right-hand side, and if you're on a smaller screen, you might have to move the floating heads right now. And if you're on a really small screen, these little icons and labels would actually be at the bottom of your Canvas page. But if you're on a PC, if you're on a laptop, usually for the most part, you'll see these little icons on the right-hand side. We have a few different options we can choose from. One of which is this one called Import Course Content. And what Import Course Content allows me to do, and I'm going to go ahead and click on it, is actually, once I click on this little drop down, I can copy a Canvas course, this previous option. And what that will allow me to do is Canvas will give me a whole drop down of previous courses I've been assigned. And you can see they'll delineate it by your term. So summer 1, summer 2, spring. And to say if I wanted to copy all of my spring 2020 course content, or maybe just some of my spring 2020 course content, I can click the course and then choose either copy all of my content or say just a couple of things. Maybe I only wanted to bring a couple of assignments over. So let's go with that example. I just want to bring a couple of my assignments over from my previous semester. So let's say it's going to be my spring one. I'll select specific content, and then I'll go ahead and click on import. We'll see that under my current jobs, I have my course copy that I just started at 9:44 a.m. I'll click on the select content button. And once I clicked on that select content button, I have this little pop-up. And what Canvas is allowing me to do is select my specific content that I wish to copy over. So like I said, I wanted to copy a couple of assignments. So I'll open up my assignments and say I want to copy over this quiz, and I want to copy all of the files over. That way I can change the structure of that a bit. So I'll check off those two items. And then in the bottom right-hand corner of this little pop-up, I'll go ahead and check and click Select Content. And what Canvas will now do is they'll queue my job, and within like the next 3 minutes or so, if not sooner, all of that content would be copied over into this course. It does not have to be just your previous semester. Canvas can go back pretty far, almost usually as far as your content is going to copy any of your course content. Any questions on copying content?
If you copy a whole course and then you decide that you have so many changes that it would be easier to start from scratch, can you delete the whole course?
Excellent question, Carol. So yes, I'm going to go back over into my course settings button that we were at before. And so this time, instead of, we'll look at our right-hand side navigation pane, instead of doing import course content, we can actually do this reset course content, where we get a really scary red button saying reset course content. So if I were to click on this button, it would completely wipe everything out and give me that clean slate. The only thing with that we recommend doing, if you are going to reset your course content, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't hurt to back it up. And so the way that you can back up everything you currently have, instead of doing import, we can go ahead and click on export course content. And we can choose whether to export just the quiz or the entire course. I'll use the course example, so I'll create my export. And like I said, this is a testing course, so it might take a little bit long just because we have a lot of dummy content in here. But eventually what you'll be able to do, Carol, is download that course export. You can save it somewhere in your My Documents or store it up on Google Drive. And then you can go ahead and reset course content and delete everything.
Okay. So if you pick delete course, then you're deleting it completely, and then
so yeah, and actually
don't want to do that.
Yeah, and most likely, and Quayle, correct me if I'm mistaken, I don't think you will ever see this delete course button because you'll actually be in real courses, not one of these sandboxes that I'm working in right now.
Okay.
As well as conclude.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about syllabus. And let's pretend that nothing's here right now. So when I go into my course syllabus, usually you're going to see a blank page. If you have, say, copied over some information from last semester, so for example, say assignments, Canvas will give you this course summary where they'll try to essentially just show all of your assignments and the due dates, or if something doesn't have an assignment, just list them kind of blank down here. There's a couple of different ways that you can go about posting your syllabus within Canvas. I think actually one time we counted 7 or 8 different ways. What we like to encourage faculty to do, that way it gives students as much of a seamless experience from class to class, is utilize this syllabus button right within Canvas. I know a lot of people like to just post it either within the files or maybe just as an announcement item. But the trouble with that is students that have trouble maybe finding where you actually put that, because like I said, there's a lot of different ways faculty can post their syllabus. So when you go to post your syllabus, there's really 2 main ways you can do it within this syllabus button. You can either just upload, say, a Word document or a PDF copy of it, or you can actually copy and paste the entire syllabus content. So for both methods, how we go about this is we'll go ahead and click on the edit button. And like I said, say if we just wanted to upload that Word document or that PDF copy, I can go into Files tab on the right-hand side. And if you're on a smaller screen, it might be at the bottom. And then I can either choose to click on a file that I already have uploaded. So for example, let's pretend the 7 tips for writing great questions PDF is actually my syllabus. I could just click on that and we'll see it gets linked within my course. Or more likely, maybe you actually haven't uploaded it yet. We can go ahead and upload it right from this page. Again, I'm doing this from within the Files tab on the right-hand side. And then at the bottom of that little section, we have the Upload a New File button. So I'll go ahead and click on Upload a New File and choose File, at which point I'll be able to, excuse me, at which point I would be able to go ahead and upload a dummy file. So let's just say, again, let's pretend this file that's here called SHI Education Summit's my syllabus. I'd open it, and then finally click on the Upload button. And we'll see what's cool is as soon as I uploaded it, Canvas already went ahead and linked it within my course content page. So let's take a look at what this looks like once I save it. So to save my page, I'll click on Update Syllabus. And then the students would have a link to that PDF where they could either preview it right within the course, or they could go ahead and just by clicking on it, download it to their computer. If you didn't want to upload the PDF, say you wanted all of the course content, excuse me, all of your syllabus content to be right within the syllabus page, I can go back into Edit, delete what I have, and then say from a Word document, just go ahead and copy and paste all of my syllabus content here, and then go back and maybe play with the formatting like headers, excuse me, font sizes, so on and so forth. That is updating syllabus. Any question on that? Okay, let's dive into modules. Modules, the modules function within Canvas is a great way to organize your course content. A lot of folks, especially if they're teaching an online course, they will group their modules by, say, the corresponding weeks within a semester, or maybe the corresponding units or chapters within their class, whatever makes the most sense. But like I said, doing it with, say, week 1 through week 13 is one of the most common ways to utilize modules. And what's nice about modules is there's nothing unique that you're creating. Modules is actually just collating all of your course content. So what we can do, and we're going to demonstrate this next, is let's use the example of for week 1, we want to have all of the course learning materials and the student learning activities for the students, all within that one nice cohesive page like a module. So to do this, we'll go ahead and create a new module by clicking on the red plus module button. And let's just call this week 1. Modules allows me to do a couple of cool things, like not make it available until a certain date and time. So if you didn't want students to jump ahead, I could check off this little lock until button. And then utilizing this little calendar button, pick the date and time I would like that to become available. So say I don't want it to be available to students until Monday at 12:01 a.m. I can go ahead and choose that. Modules also does allow you to set prerequisites. This would mean that students actually have to do all of what you're telling them to do in the previous module until the new one gets turned on. We're not going to demo this right now in the basic section, but that's something we could always show you guys, anybody who's interested in one of the drop-in sessions that we do. But so let's go ahead and create our week 1 module by clicking on the Add Module button. And Canvas will go ahead and put that module at the bottom of our page. What's nice about using modules, we can go ahead and just by clicking on these little 9 dots on the left-hand side, click and drag and drop them to wherever we would like them. And this makes it super easy to maybe reorganize your class. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this all the way up against all of this other junk at the very top of my course. Come on. There we go. And we can see there's this little watermark, and I know it's a little hard to read on a smaller screen. Let me zoom in a tiny bit. Will unlock June 29th at 12:01 a.m. And so while you can see it, students will not be able to access any of the content here yet. So we created our module, but let's actually now populate the module with course content. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead and click on this little plus icon next to the module's title. We see this little dialog pop up where we can choose, and by default, it's going to go to add assignment to week 1. But by choosing this little drop down, I can choose to add an assignment, a quiz, a file I might have uploaded, a course content page, as well as a discussion board, and something called text header. And text header is just a way to organize kind of the title of your content. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. But let's say I want to add a file that I've already uploaded. So say it's this handout. By just clicking on the title of the handout and clicking on the red add item, it will add it to my module. Or I could click on the new file button and upload a file right from this module page. Let's go ahead and utilize the file I already have uploaded and click on add item. And we can see this delineation of the little icon of the paperclip lets me know that I've uploaded a file. And by the green checkbox, I know that this file, the file itself, is published to students. And so let's go ahead and we'll upload a couple of more things. So let's say I wanted to upload an assignment for, attach an assignment for this week. And let's say it was the midterm paper. I'll go ahead and add that assignment to the week. And what's nice about this, again, the due dates are dummy. Canvas will automatically pull in the due dates for the assignment as well as the point value so students can see that. Does anybody who's used modules see something that's wrong with this week 1 module though? Who's familiar with it? Anne?
The module itself is blanked out.
The module itself is not actually published. Anne gets the gold star for the day. So Anne, I see green checks here.
And myself.
But so help me out. I see green check marks here. Why is it still not accessible to students though?
Because the module itself isn't published.
That's right. So when I look at the module title, guys, again, if I go all the way to the right, I see this little do not enter sign. And I know that that's not the actual name of this icon, but I don't actually know what it's called. So I call it the do not enter sign. If I hover over this, I then see this little pop-up from Canvas saying publish. So let me go ahead and click on that. And then and then it turns green. So here's what was happening. The files themselves might have been accessible to students, but the students couldn't actually see anything because the module was not published. And so it's kind of like a parent-child relationship here. If that module is not published, whatever you did underneath of it is really useless because students still can't see it. And what's nice about that is, so say I want the week 1 module to be published, but I'm really not ready to talk about the midterm paper yet, and I don't want students jumping down a rabbit hole. By checking off the green box here, I can unpublish just one piece of content within that module, but I still don't want to say limit them from seeing all of the other content within the module. Any questions on that? A couple of last little miscellaneous things with working with modules. By clicking on the 3-dot ellipses next to a specific piece of module content, I can go ahead and remove it right from the module. And once I click on remove, I'll get a confirmation box. I can also do things like just by dragging, again, the 9 dots, dragging and dropping content within a module to be in order that maybe makes more sense for my learning, for my teaching style. I can also move pieces of content to a different module. So say this unnamed quiz we didn't actually get to this week and I want to change it up and push it to next week. By just dragging and dropping, I can move it to a later module or a previous module within Canvas. Any big questions on modules? I know that this seems like a lot. It's a very flexible system, but like I said, what we tend to see be utilized the most with how instructors are structuring their modules is by, say, week 1, week 2, unit 1, whatever it is that fits the way that you're structuring your course. This gives it a very nice cohesive layout to not only students, but also instructors as well, just to be able to kind of follow, hey, here's what we're going to be doing this week. I have all of my files right here within modules. That way students don't have to go digging in my folder structure. It makes it a lot easier for everybody to access your course content. Cool. Grayley, am I missing anything on modules?
How does modules interface with assignments?
So great segue into our next section, Carol. So while I showed you how to add an assignment to modules, let's actually talk about how we create those assignments in the first place. So I'm going to go ahead and on my left-hand side navigation pane, look for assignments, and open up the assignments page. Again, if you're in a blank course, you'll see nothing here. If you've maybe copied other content over from a previous course, you might see those assignments there. Assignments is what allows students to either upload a file and submit it to you, or if, say, maybe they're doing work, if you're teaching an in-person class and they're just turning something in person, or maybe it's not actually something they're turning in at all. Maybe it's just something like participation. All of this is done within the assignments page, because whenever you create an assignment in Canvas, that is going to correspond to an entry in your Canvas gradebook. So we can either add an assignment by clicking on the red plus assignment button, or to the left of that, we have this plus group button. What Canvas also allows you to do, and what's really useful if you're utilizing the Canvas gradebook, is you can create assignment groups to either just organize the different types of assignments that you might have for kind of your own sanity, or what's very common is instructors will actually utilize the groups function to do weighted grade books. And so if you're weighing different categories of assignments, by utilizing this grouping function, we can actually set percentage weights to specific groups and have Canvas do all of the math for us.
Ooh.
So say we want to do that, let's just, we'll come back to the groups setting, but let's go ahead and just create a new assignment. So I'm going to go ahead, click on the plus assignment button. We can go ahead and give the assignment an assignment name. So let's just say this is week 1 reading activity. Whatever the assignment name is what's going to appear in your gradebook. So go ahead and give that assignment name, whatever makes the most sense for not only you in the gradebook, but also for students for knowing what to turn in. We see this rich content box, what's called the rich content box. And what this allows us to do is actually, we could give the students whatever the learning prompt is, or if say we have a PDF of the assignment description, we can go back into our file section here and maybe just upload the directions for the PDF. And that would link right within the assignment box so students could see everything. We'll go ahead and keep scrolling. Let's say the point value for this is just going to be 10 points. We see assignment group. We'll go ahead and go back to this in a minute, but assignment group is, say we're doing that weighted gradebook or just we're categorizing different assignments, we could actually choose right from here what group it belongs to. We don't have to do that though. Display grade as, this is whatever your preference is. If you want students to see their grades as percentage points, if it's just a complete versus incomplete grade, as well as not graded. So say you want students to see an entry in the gradebook, see an entry in something that they have to do, but it's not necessarily graded. You can go ahead and create that, and there's just no grade that you would give students. There's really not too many use cases for this, but it does exist. And then we're brought into this submission type section. So like I was saying before, the assignments area is what allows us to either have students upload something right into Canvas, or maybe it's not something that they're going to turn in. Maybe it's just something they're doing in class. but Canvas allows for all of this. So the submission types we're given is no submission. So this might be something like your participation grade you're giving students, where they're not actually giving you anything, but you need to be able to give them a grade. Online, on paper, which when you select on paper, this is what I was saying before, you can still give them a grade, but there's not actually an upload box for students, as well as external tool. We'll come back to external tool in a second, but let's go ahead and say that students are going to go ahead and submit an assignment online. Canvas then tells us, well, how do you want them to submit this assignment? Do you want them just to be able to give it? Do you want a Canvas just to give them students a text box and the students respond right there? Canvas can also allow for media recording. So say if a student is doing a speech presentation, you want them just to be able to give their 3 to 5 minute speech right within Canvas and record it. You can go ahead and choose that. Or what the most common one is file upload. So you want students to go ahead and either submit that Word document, PDF, Excel file, or maybe even a Photoshop file if that's your discipline. So what's cool about Canvas is when I check off file uploads, I can actually do something called restrict upload types, file types. So say if I only wanted students to submit their final paper as a PDF, I could delineate that be the only accepted file format. Just realize if you are going to go down this rabbit hole of setting what you want students to upload, tends to be that students, no matter what, still will end up reaching out to you with questions saying, I'm trying to upload my Word document and it's not letting me, even though you told them that it's only a PDF. So just be prepared. If you are going to do that, you might still get student feedback. So I'll go ahead and turn it off for now, but keep file upload turned on. Submission attempts, for those who maybe have used assignments in the past, but maybe not recently, this is something new, or maybe this is something that you just started noticing recently. This is a new feature within Canvas where if you are only one to let students submit something, 1 shot or 2 shots at submitting it, you could switch unlimited to limited, and that sent the number of attempts they can upload something. The one thing with submission attempts I tend to see that people can get confused about, this doesn't have anything to do with late submissions necessarily. This is just however many times students can upload something before you either stop accepting the submissions or don't allow them to submit anymore. So what I mean by this is some instructors, once the student uploads it and say turns it in, they don't want to give students the opportunity to go and tweak it before the due date. So that's what this is allowing. But in the vast majority of cases, we keep it on unlimited attempts. Canvas does allow you to set this as a group assignment if we're using the groups function within Canvas. That's not something that we necessarily cover in this basic session. But if you were giving a group assignment and you didn't want everybody to have to submit the same paper separately and you want to be able to give a group grade to everybody, this is what the group assignment function allows for. Same deal with peer reviews. It's not something we're going to go into today, but Canvas does allow for peer reviews. And then finally, we have our assign section. And so we'll go ahead and assign this to everybody. If you were, say you had your section, your Canvas course cross-listed, say you had a B and a C and a D all within this one big course, but for whatever reason, just your C's and Charlie section was given an extra assignment, you could choose to delineate that. I'm going to keep it everybody for our example. We can go ahead and set a due date. And this is the due date that students will see. And if students were to submit anything after the due date, there would be a flag for the student and for the instructor saying this assignment was submitted after the due date. And then you as the instructor could choose what to do with that, depending on whatever your due date policy is. And then we see this available from and available until box. What available from and available until does is restrict students from participating in the activity until those delineated dates. So for example, if I only wanted students to have a 3-day window to submit this assignment, I could choose to set those dates right within here. This is a feature that some instructors opt to use. Just realize, like I said, even if a student is submitting something late, your policy could be that you don't accept late submissions. But in the cases that there are those exceptions and you are going to allow for those exceptions, it gets complicated. So really think about if you want to use available from and available until, because it can be tricky. And if you were to do something wrong by accident, which is very easy, your inbox will be flooded with student complaints, I promise you, and them not being able to submit something. So I'll go ahead at the bottom. I can either choose save or save and publish. And I'll go ahead and click on save and publish. That way it's accessible to students right away. And then we have our assignment created. And once students, and this is something we talk about in a whole another training entirely, but once students start submitting their paper, we can actually do this thing called Speed Grader right within Canvas and view the submission and give the student a grade, as well as give them feedback like comments right within Canvas. But like I said, shameless plug if you want to come and learn about that in a separate session. Questions on what we just did within an assignment. That was a lot, but you can do a lot within assignments. And Carol, to go back to your earlier question, does this kind of make sense with how assignments and modules, the relationship exists? So we create our assignments, and then if we'd like to, we can go back to modules. And by clicking on that little plus icon, bring in that new, oh God, I don't even know what I called this thing, week 1 reading activity. I can pull in that assignment right within our module now.
Oh, okay.
John, I have a question.
Sure, Ann.
If you're grouping the assignments and say the assignments together are, say, 40% of the grade, when you put in the value of each individual assignment, can each individual assignment be 100%, 100 points total? And then if somebody gets 100, a 50, 100, a 50 out of 4, that it will average out to the 75.
That is verbatim exactly what the function is going to do.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. Canvas, you have to remember, Canvas is a computer and Canvas is literal. So it's going to do what you tell it to do. And I know, and this is why if anybody's interested and wants to come to the drop-ins later today, I can go into a lot more detail about using the weighted gradebook. Well, I don't like doing it during this session because we inevitably go down a rabbit hole, because I have heard some really crazy gradebook calculation schemas that instructors use. And Canvas is only going to do kind of the basic weights that you want it to do. So like just how you described, Dan, is what Canvas is going to do. Canvas can't read your mind in that, okay, I only want it to give this percentage to a couple of assignments, even though it's all within the same category, because that's just how I do it in my head when I do my manual gradebook. Canvas isn't going to do that. It's going to do the math the correct way, if that makes sense.
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
So if you notice here on my left-hand side navigation pane, I have some links that are normal with this little white space here, and then I have some links that have this little eye icon with a line strike through it. What that means is the links that have this little icon here are not actually accessible to students. So what Canvas allows us to do is we can choose what we want students to see within our course navigation pane here. So to change anything that students see or don't see, I can go ahead and go into my settings for my course. And earlier we really just focused on what was here on our right-hand side pane. But if we notice here at the top, we have these 5 different tabs. We have course details, sections, and this third one called navigation. And so within navigation, we can choose what's shown to students within our navigation pane. And so I like to keep things, because Canvas, there's a lot here, right? So what I like to try and do in any course is really try and keep it as clean as possible for students. So if I'm using modules, I don't necessarily need assignments to be shown, because I'm going to have all of my assignments right within my course modules. So let's tie off that same example, files. Again, if I'm using course modules, well, I actually don't want students to see my whole file repository, because 1, the way that I'm structuring things makes sense to me and it might not make sense to students, so they can't see everything. And I also might not want students to see certain files that are opened right now. So what I can do is by clicking on these three dots, I can choose to disable files so students won't actually see that. So same thing, let's say conferences. I'm not actually using Big Blue Button anymore, for those who remember that. I'm using Zoom. I can either click on these three dots and choose disable, or I can also just drag it down to this gray section down here where it says hide them from the students. What I can also do, if we see on the left-hand side, the order of buttons that I have here might be a little bit different than what you're used to seeing in your course. So what I can do is I can actually choose to rearrange these icons, these buttons, depending on the order I want students to have. So say I know I'm going to be using Zoom a lot this semester, so I want that to be kind of right after home, then syllabus, modules. But you know what? Announcements is actually really important too, so I'm going to want that to be number 2. So this looks good. I'm happy with that. But if we notice, nothing actually changed here yet on the left-hand side. And that's because in my opinion, simply dumbest feature in Canvas of when you make a change is on this page, because at the very bottom of this course navigation change is a red save button that is very hidden. And if you don't click on this red save button, it will not actually make any of your changes permanent. So I'll go ahead and click on the red save button. I'll refresh my page. And then if I look here, I can see home and then announcements is second, just like I changed that up. And if I scroll down a bit here, we see files now has that little eye icon, with the strike through. I cannot tell you how many times Quayle and I will get an email from a panicked instructor saying, well, I made all the changes and didn't do anything. The save button's in the worst possible space because I forget all the time. That's how you can rearrange your course navigation, your left-hand side course navigation buttons. For students who are on the mobile app, the same is true as well. It won't be on the left-hand side of their app, but same deal. When the students are going into their course, whatever order that you have here and whatever buttons that are accessible here is what students are going to see in the mobile app as well. A couple of other small changes that maybe you like to make to your course for those who haven't done this before. I'm going to go ahead and click on home. And if you notice, when I clicked on home, it's actually bringing me right to my modules page, instead of maybe what you're used to seeing is this thing called the course activity stream. Canvas allows us to choose the home page that students see. That way, it's whatever makes the most sense for you. On the right-hand side of this home page, right where I have underneath where I have my publish and unpublish buttons, which I'm sure you're used to seeing as well, I have these other options, one of which is choose course homepage. So I'll go ahead and click on that and I get this little pop-up. Canvas allows us 5 different types of items that can be our homepage. The default that you're used to seeing probably is the course activity stream, which is kind of just like notifications for students. To me, it doesn't really make too much sense, but that is the default. Pages front page, which we cover in more advanced sections, if you want to make a nice custom homepage. Course modules, which is what I chose. Assignment list and syllabus. So syllabus is also a very common one. Say whenever you want whenever students go into your course, you want that syllabus to be nice and forefront. By checking off the syllabus button, I can go ahead and click on save. And now whenever I click on say I'm in announcements, whenever I click on home, it brings me, you can see, right to the syllabus page instead for this course. If you wanted to make a really nice kind of prettied up homepage, you can do that. And we would be more than happy to show you what you can do with that if you want to come to one of the drop-in sessions. Say if you maybe want to have kind of like an about this course section, maybe maybe a grid of what you're covering in different weeks, like a lot of you do on your syllabi. You can do all of that within Canvas if you wanted to. So I'm going to change it back to my modules page. And I'm getting ready to send this out, publish it out to students, but I want to see what it looks like to students. For those who don't know, we can actually go ahead and dive right into student view within Canvas. We don't need to borrow. We don't, for those who are on Blackboard, you might be used to a dummy student credential to log into. We don't have to worry about that. If I click on the settings button, and again, the settings for my course in the left-hand side navigation pane, I'm going to see on the right-hand side something that says Student View with a little eyeglass icon. So when I click on Student View, it's really cool because only what students will see in my course is what I can now see. So if we notice on the left-hand side navigation pane, there's really no buttons anymore. It's only the ones that I chose to show to students. And so this is a great way to confirm that what you're wanting students to see is what they actually see. Remember how earlier we did this unlock, this lock module until the 29th? Here's what it looks like for students. They can see what's coming up, but they can't actually click on anything. They can't access this PDF yet, and they can't they can't access the assignment yet because it will not unlock until the 29th. Once we're done with Student View, at the bottom right-hand corner, and again, you might not be able to see this because of all of our beautiful floating heads right here right now because of Zoom, there is a Leave Student View button. So I'll go ahead and click on the Leave Student View. And finally, last but not least, let's say, all right, but let's back up to what we were talking about earlier. We imported our course content from the spring. We created our new assignments. We're using this thing called modules to actually organize everything in a nice cohesive manner. There is still one more thing that we have to do at the end of the day, and that's actually publish your course to students once you're ready. And again, for those who have done this before, I'm sure you remember this, and I'm sure you've remembered that, or you've forgotten to do this at some point, like Quayle and I have on numerous occasions. Even though you published all your modules, in order for students to actually see the fact that your course is ready and exists, you have to click on the Publish button. And once we click on that Publish button, instead of it being red unpublished, we see green published. And only at that point is everything accessible to students. Any questions on those last two items that we just covered? So to sum up, we rearranged the links on the left-hand side navigation pane. We also hid links that we didn't want students to see. We changed our course homepage to be the modules because since we learned how to use modules earlier, we're gonna all do that. And then we also learned just to confirm what it looks like for students using Student View and actually go through and make sure that what we want students to see is in fact what we want them to. And then once we've confirmed all of that, we've gone ahead and published the course to students. Any questions on those three particular things that we just covered? Cool. So with that, we did still allow an extra 7 minutes at the end just to kind of cover anything big, any major questions that you had of what we've already covered. And like I said, we're transitioning right into the drop-in session after this for those who want to learn. If there's something in particular you wanted to learn a little bit more about, say the weighted grade book, and we'd be happy to show you that in the drop-ins. But at this point, any questions that you guys have on the getting started with Canvas, kind of those 10 quick start guides or 10 quick start features, have at it. Anne?
What's the Office 365? I don't remember seeing that before.
I meant to turn that off when you guys got here. That was something I'm testing.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Student saw something she wasn't supposed to see. Oh, well.
There is a lot of crazy links you might have seen throughout this page. They're not actually functional features. They're things we're either testing or they're defunct features that no longer exist. I usually use a different Canvas page, but the page that I normally use for trainings is actually being used for testing something right now. Summer's really fun around here in the TLC because we're doing a lot of different stuff. So sorry about that.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Other questions of what we just covered? Christine, April, anything jumping out at you guys? I know you both used Canvas before, have used Canvas in the past a lot.
No, I'm good. I just really wanted an overview just so I can start gearing towards the fall session and make sure that there was some things that I focused on the first 2 times I've taught there and see what now I can build on from the beginning stages. And in the third semester teaching, I'm seeing some new things that I probably was uncomfortable venturing towards, but now that I'm a little more comfortable with the basics, I feel like I can venture a little bit further.
Awesome. And if there's anything that you guys get out of this, it's that just straight being able to kind of see something that you've always saw but didn't want to play with and are ready to experiment.
I know, by the way, the students are excellent, so they've taught me a lot too along the way.
And they have no problem telling you when you're doing it wrong, right?
Yeah, no, they've been excellent resources, So we meet in the middle. I give them the knowledge, they help me with the technology. It all works well.
Awesome. If there was one kind of takeaway or two takeaways that I think we're really trying to encourage faculty to consider utilizing if they've not done so already, or maybe restructure how they've done it, especially with the fall shaping up to be as chaotic as the unknown. If you haven't structured your course using these modules yet, we had faculty who had never used that before, who in the spring kind of started to experiment with it, and they ended up finding it helped themselves organize the course in a much easier way. And students also like it because it's a lot clearer for students. They're not going digging for what's due this week in the assignments page. They're not going digging in, at times maybe crazy folder hierarchies within your folders pane for different assignments that are due.
Okay. John and Quayle, I've signed up for a lot of the individual sessions from this basic. Which one is the course that would go over how to break out into group sessions? Because I know that if we end up having to go back to this full remote type situation, I have some group projects that are scheduled on my syllabus throughout the semester, and I still want to be able to do group presentations and case studies effectively. So which one of those individual sessions would cover group
Probably the engaging with Zoom for classroom sessions. So not the basics. The basics, we kind of just go through how to use Zoom, but that other one will get into how to use Zoom to teach. And I believe breakout rooms is covered, which you can use for those group things and explaining how students can use Zoom as well to do presentations online.
Wonderful, because I think last semester the saving grace was like we kind of started in the classroom, so the students got to engage and got to know each other and bond. So by the time we got towards the end of the semester where we were kind of remote, they knew each other well. But what if we end up in a situation where they don't get that intimacy in the classroom? I want to make sure that I use the group breakout sessions effectively on Zoom. So thank you.
We also cover like the grade book groups within the assignments session too.
I'm signed up for that too. Anything you offered, I've signed up for, just to make sure I kind of honed in there, because it's always great to have it. And if you find you don't need it, then so be it. But I just want to be proactively prepared. So
awesome.
If I could just say, there was one of them, and I can't remember right now which it was, that was already completely booked. Is there any chance, if that's the case, that you could, and it said, if you can't sign in, send Quayle a notification or so, there's a thing to click. So are you thinking about creating another session or?
I was going to say, in all honesty, we are about at our limits of what we can offer this summer. We are, for the sessions that are full like these, we are recording them so that we will at least be able to share the recordings with folks who may not be able to attend. The teaching online workshop, I think, Anne, is the one you're referring to, and we're running 2 sessions of that this summer. I'm not going to be able to do that because that's 4 weeks long. The next time that will run will be in the fall. So for that one, there won't be a recording, but it will be running again in the fall.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording before I forgot.